Return to Glory podcast. The Huskers are 7-6, winning record for the first time since 2016. Hunter Zarbnicki, Austin Rose, Dakota Freetag. Feels good to say that. Coming off a big bowl game win against Boston College, 20-15 in New York City.
Are you glad you didn't go, Hunter? It was so pleasant to be there.
It looked like the ugliest game ever.
The Huskers are glad that I didn't go.
Is that why we won? That's the real question.
Could be. The weather, looked fun to play in. Fun is a very good term in my mind because I think those players probably like playing in muddy. Now I don't know if it's fun to watch. It's kind of muck, but
I will say this: when you slide on the field for like 5 yards, that looks pretty fun.
That's what I was gonna say. It's fun.
There was one play where the guy caught the ball and slid like 15 yards out of bounds.
Yeah,
it was.
It was great. A lot to get to, specifically with the game, but I mean, high level, big picture. Nebraska is 7-6 in 2024, and leading up to the game, I was getting the here we go again of all the fans saying this game really doesn't matter. It's the first game of 2025. So many players have left. You know, if we lose, it's not a big deal. We've gotten new coaches. They haven't had time to work with the players yet. And Nick Bott, who I've mentioned before and love listening to his podcast, had a really good podcast on why the bowl game matters. And it does matter. Like, it's a football game. You have an opportunity to go out and win. And we don't want to make excuses and say, here's why it doesn't matter. We did what we needed to do. We, for the most part, dominated Boston College from start to finish and won in New York City, which had a lot of reasons behind it for some of our players and Matt Rule's hometown. So I just wanted to start out and saying, like, this game was important. And for the first time in who knows how long, Nebraska, well, I guess you could say Wisconsin, Nebraska has won a important game. Colorado, I guess, this year too. We won an important game and a one-score game. For that matter, it shouldn't have been a one-score game, but it was.
One-score game. Ed Foley contract expires on Tuesday.
Do we just want to jump into that right away? Because that's the negative. That's the talk.
I feel like that's really the only thing from this game. I mean, obviously the weather impacted how it was played. You had some of the bigger players opt out for Boston College, so I think that kind of, changed the perspective of maybe how the game could have. But we also had players opt out, not quite as big as the ACC Defensive Player of the Year. But I mean, special teams is probably the thing that stuck out.
So we can talk about, I guess, the season as a whole, the big picture conversation. I think that's one way of viewing, you win a game, you go 7-6, what that meant for the season for next year. Let's save that for right now, and let's actually talk about the game itself like we do week to week. And specifically some of the things that could have an impact on the immediate future, which topic one here that I think is very, very at the front of people's mind is Ed Foley. And Matt Rule even said there will be a massive overhaul or something like that in his press conference with the special teams. Let's go through special teams. We had everything blocked except for a kickoff. So that was good. No kickoff blocked.
Yeah, that was good. How many times in the history of football do you think a kickoff has been blocked? Is that even possible? It's illegal, right?
I mean, the Huskers would find a way to do it if they could.
So didn't have that, but yes, PAT blocked and a punt blocked. The fake punt that was successful, and then the fake field goal on the same drive that was not successful. I mean, overall, our special teams almost once again lost us the game when our defense came out and played very well. Our offense did what they needed to do given the conditions. And our special teams almost blew it again. I don't know where else you can point to besides just completely changing the entire philosophy with special teams once again. It's not like we've done this in the past. Like we have talked about how new coach, we got to spend. Was this Rule or was this Frost where we started? There was the emphasis on special teams meetings, 1 hour meetings before every
I think
practice.
that was Frost.
I think that was Frost. Yeah.
So like we've done this whole special teams is horrible. Let's fix it. But I do think, unfortunately for Ed Foley, I think it does have to start there in order to do a massive overhaul. It does.
You can't have 15 extra weeks of practice. Now it was wet, like the block PAT. It did look like the ball slipped, but you can't have a block PAT returned and a block punt in the same game after it's like, hey, we really need to work on this, and you had 15 extra practices to work on it.
And the thing with the block punt is you can't, like, that's the one thing you can do in that like position. All you gotta do is get that ball off, and you're gonna win that game. And that's the one play you couldn't do is have that punt blocked. That just gave him life. Like it was over if you punt that ball 20 yards.
It was, yeah. Because we're up 20-0, 20-2. Special teams gives up however many, 9 points. No, 8 points. Well, I guess it depends on which one. I don't remember. They scored the extra point on that. So technically special teams gave up 9 points.
Yeah. No, they went for 2, so they didn't.
Oh, you're right.
So technically it was 8. But yes,
8.
like special teams, like not just plays that led to points, like actually points on special teams pretty much. Put them in first and goal from the 2 or whatever it was. It's not good. So we don't need to spend 40 minutes talking about special teams because I think there's not going to be many things we can solve here. But I think Ed Foley, we're just going to go a new direction.
Yes. Next year we'll have a new coach. We'll have a new punter. We'll have a new long snapper.
And what's funny is by the end of the year, it wasn't the specialists. Maybe the long snapper.
I agree.
The kicker ended up being okay. Like
yes.
John Hole.
It was good. Serviceable.
Assuming it was John Hole in the uniform and not Maher.
Oh, Maher, yeah.
You had confidence at the end of the year that you could come out and make a field goal.
Yes. Especially after the Ohio State game and some of the kicks he made there. And then our punting all year, like Buschini proved himself to be a very like top
the block punts aren't Buschini's faults.
Correct.
No.
So it's funny, we've gone back and forth on is it a special teams problem or is it a specialist problem? We've done that. Everybody's done that. We've talked about how it's actually our kicker is the problem. It's not the coaches. Our scheme's fine. We just can't hold the ball. We can't snap the ball. And that might have been the case here, but at any rate, it's the players you have doing it and then what you're scheming behind it. And it's not working. It didn't work again. Almost cost us another game. For once, it didn't actually cost us a win. We actually got the win at the end of it. So yeah, that was big takeaway 1, probably the negative takeaway that everybody could talk about. Number 2 that I thought is very much worth talking about, especially after nobody knew about this until really after the game, was the Ramir Johnson story and everything that went on with him during the year. Nobody knew. We just all, I guess, were chalking it up to injury, maybe. Didn't know why he didn't play. And turns out he was dealing with a lot of family stuff back in New York with his mom. Then his mom ended up passing away in November. And nobody knew about that. Even members in the team potentially didn't know about that. And for him to come back and do this in this game, I mean, it's a really, really neat story, and it's worth calling out. Rule getting very emotional in the post game, and then Ramir getting named player of the game for the impact that he had, and maybe not his overall best yardage game, but it was. He got the first down that sealed the game, which
Mhm.
we've never been able to do ever. And it was Ramir Johnson, the fifth-year senior that's been stuck with the program through the thick and thin, back at home in his hometown after a very, very rough year, sealing the deal and almost, writing it off as Nebraska's comeback season for the future.
It was that, yeah. It was a good game. Obviously, I don't think the offense looked as explosive as we wanted to, but you're right. It was very satisfying seeing Ramir, especially when they tell you that, you just feel good about it. And when he was the one who got the first down, he got the first touchdown. And I mean, he's had several injuries, and I think we've all liked him the whole time. We're never like, this guy shouldn't be on the team, and we don't want to see him get touches. And there was a point in time where he was our starting running back a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
So it was a good way to end a career, especially, I mean, even for like those other seniors, Gifford and Robinson, who have been there for 5 years and hadn't gotten to get the job done. And it was a good way to end the year.
Well, that's the thing about bowl games is you can't tell me it doesn't matter because it's a good send off for all those seniors, and you could tell they cared. Like, and then you have all the freshmen playing too, like a bunch of freshmen now with all the transform stuff. You get them reps. Like, you can't tell me that game didn't matter at all. On the offensive side, well, I don't know. The first part of that game, I thought your offense looked really good until that fourth quarter. You're moving the ball well the whole game, I thought. I just don't. Did you guys come away impressed with your offense from that game?
I don't think I would say that, but I will also acknowledge the conditions. The field was
Yeah.
super slippery. It was wet, which could just impact timing. The interception, Banks was on the ground, I'm assuming because he lost his footing, and then the ball was picked. It was a bad play. He shouldn't have thrown it there anyways, but.
Well, that was the ugliest football field I've saw in a long time. Like,
It
there was no footing at all.
So we went down that first drive and then through the pick. One of the more impressive drives of the year was our second drive. I think it was a 15-play, 75-ish yard drive and went down and punched it in. I do. I think given the conditions and what we need to do for the game, yeah, I mean, it was a very solid performance. Give it a B.
Statistically, it was efficient. I mean, we averaged 4 yards a rush, completed 78% of our passes. That's pretty good.
It was, and yes, at the end we finally sealed the deal. Did our offense get a little bit stagnant there in the fourth quarter? I guess. I mean, the 3 and out and the blocked punt was not good. We started at the 1 yard line to start the fourth quarter and got out of at least the end zone.
Almost had a safety there.
So that was good and solid at least. I thought our offense did a decent job. It's going to be an interesting offseason when it comes to what this offense looks like with Dana next year. Dylan, and from some of the other things I've heard, the emphasis on the offseason is going to be him trimming up and losing 15 to 20 pounds and being able to have the ability, not to necessarily run for 50 yards a game, but just be more elusive and evasive in the pocket. The end of the game was part of, and from what it kind of sounds like, was Dylan just saying, I'm pulling the ball and getting into keeping it. It wasn't a design zone read. I don't know if that's actually true or not. That's just what I've heard. It was Dylan just saying, I'm going to go, make a play or read this and do it on my own. Sliding, you could say late on the first one. The unsportsmanlike personal foul on Boston College. Obviously, their fans weren't happy. You don't throw the flag. Our fans aren't happy. It's one of those things that I do think he probably slid late. I do think that officials protect the quarterback more. I do think there's an emphasis on sliding late now and also an emphasis on protecting the quarterback. And it was right in the middle of all of it. And we got the benefit of the call there. the next one just comes, I think, from playing more, where it's 3rd and 2, and he easily can pick the first down up, but he slides, gives himself up, and we're a yard short. And we've seen that before. That comes with just doing it more in practice. So I think it needs to. It's not going. Hopefully, it needs to be an added element of his game. But Dylan played a very, very solid game as well at the quarterback position. Made some good throws. Managed the game very well. I think the only way to go here with this offense is going to be up after this year. Hopefully, can't go down. If it does, I don't really know how, but it's on the rise with what we have and the pieces that we have coming in. I'm not going to say it's a good offense yet.
No.
I guess potential, but they got to show it to us. And this game was, again, a very good display of the balance that I think Dana wants to play with. And we haven't talked about Emmett Johnson yet either, how he had another very solid game as running back and affirmed, I would say, his spot as the lead rusher heading into next year.
It was funny watching the game, the Nebraska media machine. You just expected something different, but this felt like the same team from all year. I don't know. When I was watching, I wasn't like, oh man, this team feels different. It feels, outside of maybe the Emmett Johnson, like, hey, we're going to use this guy. Like, he's a freaking stud, so we're going to actually feed it to him. Offensively, it felt similar to what especially the last 3 games, but the whole year. Like, there was times where you were frustrated with the play call and what happened and how players behaved. But, I mean, the one thing that stood out to me, penalties. I don't know. I did not feel like we had a ton of penalties on us. I could be wrong. We had 6, but there was a couple there. It was all in the 4th quarter, but like the first 3 quarters were pretty clean.
Yeah, and I think the penalty part of it, I think, came along with it. I think the refs let them play a lot that game. Like, the DBs and wide receivers could just go out all game. So early in the game, Nebraska had a deep shot, and they should have called pass interference on, I thought, because the guy got hit super. I cannot remember who that was. Anyway, they had a deep shot, but then they were consistent with the whole game. The ref just let both teams play, I thought.
I didn't think the record was bad.
No,
I really did it.
If you're gonna be consistent about it like that, I'm cool with it. But yeah, they definitely were not calling pass interferences at all, like, one bit.
Yeah, I thought, given the conditions and the situation, right?
I
wouldn't know if I'd use the word consistent, but there were calls favored both ways for both teams at various points throughout the game. So there's not enough to go into the whole ref discussion again and how we think, they just need to get the play right. I think they've got a lot of plays wrong this game, but it was for both teams at various points in time. So they did. They let them play a lot. So I think offensively overall, like, we'll see what it turns into. But it seemed like they did what they need to do in the conditions. Flipping over defensive side of the ball, very, very, very impressed with how the defense played really the whole game. Robichaux, their running back, I thought he could have had a big day, and Boston College wanted to establish the run game. They never could. He ended up 10 carries, I believe, for 21 yards, and he had 1 carry for 11. So on first down, I think I heard the stat that they averaged under 2 yards a carry on first down. Like, our defense came out and played, and especially stopping the run. And then, in a game like that, it is. You have guys slipping over the field. It's hard to make accurate throws. Grayson James he did a decent job at quarterback, but he's not an elite guy back there under center. Our defense played really well. It seemed like they could not, when they wanted to get a drive going, or they tried to, or even they had a little bit of momentum, then we stopped them on fourth down, and we We did that 4 times, 0 for 4 on 4th down, which is an important thing to call out.
It is funny if they had a field goal kicking game. They probably kicked those field. I mean, they did miss a field goal early, but they probably win the game if they kicked the field goals. But they couldn't, and we stopped them on. And we stopped them on 4th down, and they weren't even like. I mean, they were short. A lot of times it was like 4th and 2. It wasn't like a 4th and long. So I was also impressed. But I mean, it did. There were some names like Donovan Jones. That was the one I was like, this guy. I don't know if I saw you play all year. Like, I have no idea who this guy is.
He did convert from safety to corner and basically played corner. I think I heard over half the snaps.
Yeah.
So we expected that with this bowl game of some younger guys getting some snaps, some plays. Your solid core, though, still played majority of the snaps, but you had some guys stepping up and filling in because they had to. Like, that's just the era, and not just Nebraska, right? That's every team in America playing in a bowl game now. You're going to have new people playing because of the transfer portal and people opting out for the draft. So, yes, credit to all those guys that stepped in. Don't want to go through and name all of them because there's several. But they did. They did a very good job, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And Boston College, like you said, didn't have a kicking game. The conditions, we did what we needed to do to win that game. I didn't think this game was going to be any higher scoring than this.
No.
Dak, don't say no. Don't say no. We did.
Yeah, I think I had one 24-21.
Along with a lot of other people that were climbing the points. I didn't think that was going to be like this. That's absent of the weather. The weather just keeps it even lower scoring.
Yeah. I thought your defense for that game, with a lot of transfers, I thought it was mostly like a bend don't break defense. I thought Boston College was like moving the ball well most of the game, but I also felt like they were in between the 40s for a lot of that game, and then you would stop them right when they would get there. Like they would get to midfield, move up to midfield, and then you would hold them every single time they got there. That's what it felt like to me. I would come away very happy with how your defense played, with how many people left and stuff, and new coach, and I don't know.
You feel good. I mean, you feel good going into 2025.
Your run defense is the main part I came away impressed with, because with their what's he, a 3rd or 4th string quarterback?
He was their 2nd string quarterback, I thought.
2nd string. So that's coming in that game. That's what they're going to try to establish is the run game.
But they couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, guys like Elijah Judy played a lot. Vincent Shavers got the black shirt this week. Just throwing out a couple. Keona Davis got some minutes. It's going to be hard to replace Ty and Nash. I mean, it will. They were very. You want to talk about just blowing up?
Very good.
I mean, that was their job because how big not even without any of their skill set, they're just huge bodies. So, filling that, Riley Van Poppel got some minutes. I think those are the guys that you're going to see next year filling in on the D line, in addition to some of the transfers that we got in. So it looks promising, looks hopeful for the future for our defense as well. With John Butler, obviously going to be potentially some new things that we maybe aren't used to or that we'll hear about. But Rule did mention he doesn't want to overhaul the defense, which rightfully so. There's no need to, with how well they played this year. I want to talk about one other thing about the game before we get big picture, and that goes to just play calling in general. Some of the trick plays, the fakes, and I don't have a right or wrong answer to this. It's a bowl game. The announcers joke about it. Like, teams have extra weeks to prepare. You put these things in your arsenal for a bowl game. Who do you guys think? Like, who's ultimately calling these plays?
I don't know.
Like, where, one, I guess they're probably designed or created, they're, found from other teams. You steal them, assistant coaches probably put them together, but like who's calling them? And that's on all the trick plays. What's funny though is the fan reaction to it all and the Twitter reaction. And I think it's so overrated. Like, I'll just take one example in the game that happened back to back. It was 3rd down and 5, I believe. And we threw it twice in the red zone. And everybody just exploded on Dana and how, here we go, had such a solid run game going, and then we went pass. The next drive, we had a 3rd and 5 wasn't on the goal line. We threw it, and then I believe ran the fake punt or something. I can't remember the exact situation. But basically, threw it twice again. No, we went forward on 4th down and threw it, and that was a touchdown that we had on the wheel route to Emmett. So what's funny is nobody bitched about that play call because it worked. And it's one of those things that if it doesn't work, people complain. If it works, people don't say it worked. And that's the nature of play calling. When it comes to these trick plays, it's the same thing. That fake field goal works with Buschini. We are the most geniuses of geniuses for calling 2 fake special teams in one drive, because no one ever does that. That's unheard of. But because we didn't get it and the design of it was what it was, why the hell would we do that? That's such a stupid call. If you're going to go for it, just go for it. Like, it's just funny. That's how people react to it. I stay away from play calling in general. Like, I avoid it because I don't think that is necessarily the end all of the outcome of the game. Now, the game planning and the scheming behind all of it and your identity and all that stuff matters. But as far as individual play calls, I just don't get into it. I think the average fan would disagree with that, because that's the easiest thing to bitch about as a fan. The easiest thing is to watch a play and say, what the hell was that? That was stupid. It's the easiest thing to do. Dak, you do it all the time because you're just a casual fan of everybody. You just use that play call.
So back to that fake punt, fake field goal. You got to think like Rule has a little bit going in. Like the head coach going to these bowl games is definitely helping on those play calls. Like you go into bowl games, you're just laying out on the table. Like who gives a crap? Try it out. Yeah, like you said about that fake punt though. So say you don't get that, everybody online is gonna be like, "Oh, that's the worst play call ever." But now since you got it, it's the best. But now I will say that fake field goal, that was a terrible play call. You didn't get it, still terrible play call. Buschini up the middle.
If we would have got it, would it have been a terrible play call?
Yes, still yes.
No,
100%.
No one would have said that. No, not a single person would have said that.
I still would have said it.
It would have been, oh my gosh, nobody would have ever thought Buschini would run the ball, because he never runs it. And what a neat moment for getting a senior, being able to score. That's what it would have been if he would have scored. Now he didn't.
There's also a reason why it didn't work. It's because it was Buschini up the middle. Like,
yeah,
that's why.
I don't know. I honestly didn't think anything of it. I was like, I wasn't even disappointed it didn't work. I was like, oh, well, we tried, like.
It's all here to me, play calling, and this comes from the professional world that at least Austin and I kind of work in, is risk and reward. I think every coach in football, let's stick to football, has a different risk appetite. Man, we're getting into some heavy business words here, but have a different
taste here.
Their risk, your ability to take on more risk as a coach is different for every coach. Dak, who's a coach in the NFL, that takes on a lot of risk?
Dan Campbell.
Thank you. Like, he's the one that comes to mind for everybody. That Dan Campbell, you know what? He's just going to do it. He's going to take risks. And what do people think of Dan Campbell right now as a head coach in the NFL?
Awesome, but also when you're down 7, the Bills kicking onside kick. Like, what are you doing there? Like, people calling on that one, but
So I think what you kind of just said, people's minds are all over the place on for the most part now. Since
because he's winning, great.
They're winning, so he's a really damn good football coach. But we've seen the other side of it. When you're a coach like that is a high risk, high reward coach, and you don't win and it doesn't work, you look like the biggest idiot on the planet. The flip side of that is being ultra conservative. And if you just, and I will say this is, I think, how Rule was coaching for a while, especially on the offensive end. It's so conservative that you don't give yourself a chance to go win games. At the same time, you're not really ever going to get blown out. You're going to always kind of be in games, but we don't know how to win the big game. Tony White's defense, I think, was a little more high risk, high reward. I feel like what we've heard with John Butler and bringing in the consultants on the defensive side, maybe he's going to be dialed back a little bit. So my point to all this is saying every coach has a different risk tolerance on what they want to do. If you're winning, it's always going to be better. If you're losing, it's not. And when it comes to doing trick plays, it's kind of the name of the game. If it works, you look like a genius. If it doesn't, it looks like you're an idiot. And that's just the reality of it. It's if on those plays and in all the situations, can you, I'll say it, beat the number. There's statistical stats out there of probabilities of what you should be doing, right? If you're succeeding better than what you should be, then you look like a genius.
Winning cures all.
It does.
That's why we weren't upset when we didn't get that 4th down, the fake field goal. If we lose by a field goal, you know what everyone's going to be super upset about? The failed fake field goal attempt.
Yep.
I absolutely hate, though, when coaches go conservative. Like, like today, the Vikings game. Kevin O'Connell could have ran 3 straight times, make the Packers use their timeouts. Instead, he comes out and throws it. Like, go out and win the game. Don't give the ball back to the other team. Like, that's what I always think. I think you go out and win the game. You don't give the other team a shot to beat you.
And see, what's crazy is, I know which player you're talking about. They threw it on first down with 2:12 left.
Yep.
Like,
and that guy should have slid short of the first down, but that's all right.
You don't execute it. You're, what the hell are you throwing the ball for?
Yeah.
I think that, a lot of Husker fans, you tie it back to the old Nebraska days of running the ball. Some fans are still wanting to do that constantly. That's a very conservative style of play. But guess what? If you have the better offensive line and the better everything, strength and conditioning program, you're probably going to work. I don't think we're there and able to do that right now. So it is. It is a big scale of what risk you're willing to take on. And like you said, Austin, winning cures all. And that's why winning this game, it's a win. Like Rule said, the last time we'll celebrate, winning 6 games or 7 games. But look at the Iowa game, how much better we played for 3.9 quarters of that game and lost. And all the good things that we did that game just got completely overshadowed and shut down. I'm talking about the players and the coaches' mindsets, the people that actually matter, not the fans who think they matter, but we don't. The players and the coaches, think about how deflating that is, that you play better than a team for 95% of the game and you get beat because you can't execute 3 little things. That's why winning is such a big thing, and why, 7-6, big picture as we transition to that. I don't know what that everybody's minds are at, but guess what? It's a step in the right direction from last year. It's a winning season.
You go into the offseason coming off a win for the first time since how long? Well, I guess Iowa, you did beat
Iowa 2 years
with
ago.
Casey Thompson, yeah.
In a losing season, yes.
So I mean, you don't.
So here's the the big topic now, getting away from the nitpicky parts of the game and looking more big picture off season. And we'll have plenty of episodes to talk about expectations and thoughts and winning the offseason national championship for yet another year. It's all a matter of perspective when you think about how the game's going. So, or the season or in next year, if you're looking at point in time when we were 5-1 going to Indiana, and you would say, well, we squeaked out a bowl win to get to 7-6 against Boston College. I think at that point in time, you'd be like, what the hell happened?
I mean, at that point in time, you were saying we were going to win 10 wins.
Thanks for continuing to remind me that I actually got my head to that point, because that just
I
sucks.
just can't believe that happened. I remember. I just was dumbfounded. I was like, what is happening?
Going into that game, you're thinking that, but directly after that, you were thinking, okay, I'd be happy to win a bowl game against Boston College.
So,
I mean, finish your thought.
Yeah. So, I guess as we get into this next talk, you have to think about it as a perspective of wherever you want to go, right? Like beginning of the rule era, would we be happy with year 2 of a 7-6 season beating Boston College? Let's go to beginning of this year when our win total was 7.5. Okay, and we looked at our schedule,
and we all took the under.
At 7. Well, the pre-bowl game, we took the under. We got 6 games, 6 wins, and then we ended up winning the bowl game.
Does the bowl game count for your runner on the win season?
No.
Okay.
But think about it from that perspective. Okay. I still think, we all took the under. That was what we thought. But as far as what we were kind of hoping, and a lot of Husker fans thought several people I talked to,
we hope for 8 wins.
We should get 8 wins this year. I mean, look at 9. We could even get the 9 going into the year.
Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So you have that lens or that frame, that perspective. Now let's just even take the smallest perspective of saying, okay, post Iowa, right? We're 6-6. Here's where we're at. And look at the outcome of this game and what it means for the future. You look at it from that narrow of a frame, you're saying, wow, that's great. Like, we do have a lot of momentum. It's very positive. We won. So many good things happened. Yes, we almost blew it, but we didn't. Like, you look at it from that small lens or small frame, and I think that's where a lot of people sit. And a lot of people here on the media and other podcasts and shows, they are looking very, very small picture. I'm not saying that's wrong by any means, but that's the reality, I think, of where people look at. So it is all matter of perspective of what you think and what you want, how forward looking, how past looking you look at a program, at a team overall. So that's my initial thought to lead into this, because I think I have some other things I want to say, but Austin, I'll let you go.
So if we're going to talk, I was literally explaining this to my in-laws this weekend, where I was saying, they're giving me shit for being excited for a 6-6 football team playing in a bowl game. I was like, well, you know what? You go into the year, if I had told you we blow out Colorado, we beat Wisconsin, and we win a bowl game, and we beat Iowa, that would have been an incredible year. And we lost to Iowa by 3 points as time expired. It's like, it was literally 5 seconds away from being a great year 2 in that role. For me, from what my expectations were. I know other people had different expectations, but if you told me we kill Colorado, beat Wisconsin, beat Iowa, and win a bowl game, that's a freaking win. And we almost did all of that. We got really close, so I'm not going to let that ruin the year. I think it was a good year. I think we made good progress, and the bowl game was good enough that you're excited for what's going to happen next year with the players we currently have.
It's amazing how much this season went from like just ups and downs.
It was, yeah.
Like, so going before the Illinois game, you were on top of the mountain.
Yep. Before the Indiana game, I'd say.
Yeah, and then after all that, I can't remember. Did you win a game after Illinois?
Yes.
Eventually.
We won. We won. It was like the FCS team.
Illinois, yes.
Yeah, not Indiana. We had a low game,
So
we had an
that's
easy game, and then Indiana.
after Indiana, it just hit rock bottom again, like by everybody. And then you beat Wisconsin, and everyone's like, okay, we're like Nebraska's back, everything. Then the Iowa game happens, and you get rock bottom again. And now, I don't know, after the bowl game, you're like, eh.
It is a roller coaster, right? Of emotions, and I will say we're pretty used to that, mostly negative emotions. Austin, to your point about a very common thing, we're excited about a bowl game at 6-6, and okay, do you want us to lose? Like
Just don't play it, then.
This is the exact like conversation of are you does this game matter, right? I get it. Like if you want to zoom out and look at big picture, are you happy that we went 6-6? I would say probably, given your expectation level, I would say probably not. Like you were hoping for more, but you're playing a football game. The game matters. You want to win the game. So go win the game. And yeah, you're damn right it matters. You should get excited.
Your quarterback looks invested in the game. You're like, people are fired up. Like there's some energy in the program.
So now I'll reverse this on the flip side of this. Now zooming out for this program, and here's the start of the offseason, official offseason talk. All I heard after this win, and even while we were kicking their butt, but then after too, this offseason is going to be one of the biggest, most hyped offseason that we have in a while. I do believe that with Raiola, with Holgerson, with these new players that everybody's getting, not just Nebraska, but we're going to claim that we have one of the better, more underrated recruiting classes, whatever we are going to be rated, whatever that matters. The defense is going to get praised for how they played against Boston. I mean, it's going to be a very, very hyped offseason. I think it's important to just also remember, like Dak talked about the highs and lows. There were points in this year, guys, that all of us and fans, and not just us three, but all the fans, we were questioning the future with Rule here. And I'm not letting that go yet. I don't think it's at the same level that it was pre-Wisconsin. But, beating Wisconsin, playing well against Iowa, but then losing that game sets you back. And then this game helps a lot too. But I think this is a step that helps. But just keep that in mind. It's not like we jumped from last year to this year going, we haven't hit a win total that Vegas has set for us since 2016. Like, we've been under that every year. So if you want to set that as the expectation line as far as just the net general public, which is probably inflated because of the Husker bettors, but it is. We've hit the unders. And so going into next year, there's going to be the Kool-Aid. There's going to be the hype. This will be one of the bigger spring games. We start the year in Kansas City, in Arrowhead against Cincinnati. It's going to be huge. I think I say this every year, but I really need to see it from this team first. And they will. The word will be said that we have all the pieces. I've already seen Dylan Raiola throwing to, and they listed off all the receivers and said with Dana Holgerson calling plays. Yep, sign me up. I'm like, oh boy. Like we're already saying we have the best receiving group ever in Nebraska history, one of the best that we've had in a long time. I'm like, based off of what, people? Like, what are we? I get it. These receivers, and you want to say the Cal guy, Isaiah Hunter and Dane Key, like, I get it. Great. But good God, can we just like see it first? But that's what it's going to be. That's what you're going to hear. That's what people are going to talk about. That's part of being a fan. I get it. But I'm just saying for myself, all of the recruiting and stuff, I'm just like, great. Let's see if we can develop them and put them together in the right places to win football games. Like with the schedule that we have next year, which just came out. And once again, now looking at it, looks pretty favorable.
So I thought this year.
Yep, we did. You're right. That's exactly right. And that's the frame that you want to say, like, beginning of the year, look at our schedule. We have an easy schedule. We expect to win what? Well, I would say going into that, we probably didn't meet that.
Yep. I will say it's going to be interesting because next year we're going in with different questions, right? This year is Dylan Raiola actually as good as we think he's going to be? Can the defense maintain its level?
Hold on. Go to that first question. Answer that, Dak.
I'd say, answer that, Dak.
Dak to start, then you can go.
I would still go in the offseason with a low question about him.
Okay. What question?
Like, I don't think he didn't prove that he's absolutely amazing this year at all. Like, I don't even know. He had 13 touchdowns, 11 picks. Like, there was no game this year I think that he completely took over. Like, just dominated the whole game at all. I think, you can say he's a freshman. I think you still got to see a little bit more out of him, though. That's what I think. And like you said, about losing weight, I think he needs to do that too coming in the offseason. But I was not blown away at all this year by him.
Not at all. No moments.
What? How can you walk away that year being like he had an amazing season?
I'm not saying he had an amazing season. I think what we found out, I think we found his floor, and his floor is good enough to win 8 football games. At least 7.
Didn't he have a stretch there, though, where he had 1 touchdown, 8 picks or something like that?
I know. But also you have to look at the totality of the games. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I think we found his floor. I don't think he's going to get worse.
I like this because going into the year, the question was Dylan Raiola what we expected? I would say he was right with what I expected. Like
a talented freshman with blemishes.
But I would say my expectations are probably lower than the general Husker fan. I also say I'm probably evaluating it lower than a general Husker fan too. How they would say he did. Dak, I think your perspective is very interesting and how you think of it. Like you're looking at it almost purely from a stat perspective and a production standpoint. And Austin's right that you can't just look at that. You have to look at the totality of it. But it still is the results. Like the production is the production, and we still won 6 games regardless of what it was. I think the Dylan Raiola saga or the Dylan Raiola story here obviously has a lot of pieces left. I will say I was one that didn't think he'd probably be here after a year. I remember talking about that last offseason when we got him. I didn't think he's going to make it past a year. That's still not finalized, but it's looking pretty likely that he's back. I thought transfer portal was coming if we had a 6-6 year. So in that sense, credit Rule and staff for keeping him here. Now, if there's question marks about Rule, about him in general of being the leader in the direction of the program, which maybe some outsiders, like Dak said, maybe there's still reasons to question. I think Husker fans would say you'd be a fool to think that based on what he's able to bring in addition to what he can potentially do on the field. I do think he can be maximized in a system if it's done right. I don't know what that is. I don't know. I don't know if Dana's the answer. You're going to hear that Dana is the answer, and it is going to be better with him. But I do think, Austin, your point about the floor, we did see that. And there's no guarantee that doesn't come back next year. And we see that again if things aren't better and the system's not better. I think a lot of what we saw this year was the product of him being a freshman, which I think sometimes can be an excuse, but also reality. And his big moments was a product of his talent. that he has, and his arm angles and his ability. He does have a lot of that there, but it needs to get put all together in a system and with players around him for it to actually shine for 4 quarters and for 12 games in a season, which we didn't see this year. So I think going into next year, my expectations aren't much different. Like, we now know what he can do, but there's a lot of things that need to get better. And a lot of that maybe isn't his technical abilities, but losing weight is one thing that he can control. And that can only help him, right? I don't think losing 15 pounds is going to make him now watch what happens. He'll lose 15 pounds and he'll look like he's throwing ducks next year. I mean,
Right.
It shouldn't happen, but you know what I mean? I think that's where Raiola's at. And I think he is a big piece for, I don't think he's a big piece. He is the piece for Rule at Nebraska for it to work. If Raiola gets pissed and leaves.
I mean, he's our best recruiting thing right now.
Correct.
He's the only draw. I shouldn't say the only draw, but he's pretty close to the only draw for
that's why
recruits. Yes.
The Rule, Holgerson, Raiola triangle is either going to work or it's all going to fall apart. Like that's just what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. Like I did not expect him to be here this year, especially if you were told me we won 6 games. I just thought he'd be like, nope, I'm better than this. But because I think some of those games you can look back to and say that is on Dylan. A couple of missed throws, him not playing well, that keeps you saying, okay, I do have a part in this. I need to be better. So, and our defense was good. If our defense was shitty and we were scoring 35 points a game and we won 6 games, see ya. But that wasn't what happened.
I agree. I mean, yeah. Like I said, I think we saw the floor. I don't think the stats tell you the whole story. And I think he's put in a lot of energy into recruiting people to come here. I think he is now invested in the team, not as much as Rule, obviously.
Agreed.
But I mean, he has brought in a lot of people that he wants to be here, or he's at least bought in with Rule and being like, I will put myself out there for you for these. So I think he's in.
Now, when was the last time going into the offseason, though, you've had a quarterback where you're like, okay, we're pretty confident that we won't have a problem with the quarterback position.
2024.
I was going to say
Yeah,
last year.
Okay, besides, like that you saw on the field, like I'm thinking.
That we had actually had from a previous season.
It's been Adrian Martinez was the Heisman running, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but
it feels long ago.
Like, you guys aren't worried about Raiola one bit going next season.
He's not high on. He's not on the list, but he's.
I have the same hesitations of him not being able to scramble and still making young mistakes. Like,
yeah,
I have the worry that we're going to hear, oh, he's only a sophomore next year. Like, that's probably what's going to happen, which is really will be an excuse next year. I don't think that you can make that anymore with his ability, but that's the worry I have, is that he's still going to show signs of inexperience. But I think that
there wasn't ever a game this last year where I was like, man, Dylan really lost us that game. Sure, there was the Illinois game where we didn't get that touchdown
throws.
But I'm not going to be holding him to a couple of missed throws, but there wasn't a game where I was like, Dylan lost us that game.
Right.
No.
Like, everything went wrong against Indiana. That's not just him.
No, that definitely wasn't it.
Iowa, there's again several issues, and there wasn't. I didn't feel like Dylan's the one who lost us the game.
I also have to factor in you had a guy dumb as rocks calling your plays half the season. So
and maybe that's why I feel that way.
Speaking of that, you came out of the season with one good thing.
That's true.
No more Satterfield.
Well, he's still on the Ross. He's still on the.
Yeah, okay, he is still in the. I don't know how, but
and he's still getting paid the same. I heard that. Which is
my god,
that's insane.
So you come out with probably the greatest thing you could have all season. You don't have to worry about him as Grossi anymore.
So, okay, well, I'm sure there'll be a lot of football offseason talk still coming forward. I do want to talk and congratulate the Husker men's basketball team on their Diamond Head Classic Tournament Championship. First time since when, Dak?
1968, right? Or something like that? 78?
Nope, that was Oregon State.
I text these guys because what they say on the broadcast, it was like they're talking about the game. They're like, yeah, this is the last time it ended up being Oregon State. I was like, last time the Huskers haven't won a in-season tournament since 1978. Well, it ended up being Oregon State, but same
It was
thing.
not Nebraska. I believe it was like the early 2000s. Maybe might even been year 2000 for Nebraska. We beat Oregon State in the championship. The defense showed up to play for 3 games last week, and that was the big storyline. In addition to Bryce Williams and the numbers that he put up against these teams, Bryce has recently looked like the guy that we said we need someone that just takes charge of this team. And when we need to get buckets, when you need somebody to step up, regardless of how he's been playing in the game leading up to the moment, he needs to shine in the moment. And Bryce has done that as of recent. It's big for this team. And this team's fun to watch. Just like last year's team. We don't have Casey. I thought that was going to really just make this team a lot less fun to watch. But something about the way we play for each other and defensively especially, we're so together.
I mean, it's such classic Zorbaniki basketball.
It does
grind.
It makes it fun to watch for me.
Mm-hmm.
And offensively, it again, it's lower scoring, but we take smart shots. We have a system that we're built around. The only caveat with all of that, I don't know who we've played of worth yet. We played Creighton. I don't know how good Creighton is. We obviously
I think Oregon State's pretty decent.
I think Oregon State could be decent. Don't know that for sure.
I'm not saying great, but
I did not watch a minute, and I don't even watch a highlight. It's like that game didn't even matter. That Michigan State game, like it didn't even get played because I don't even know. I know it was bad. I didn't even look at the stats. I didn't even look up the box. I don't even know what happened that game. So take that into account. But this team has a lot of potential to get to the tournament and win a game, which is not something I was probably expecting after losing Rank and Casey from last year's team. But here we are talking about what we have to do to get there. Non-conference is pretty much over. Southern University tomorrow night on December 30th. And then we're into conference play. And I don't think the story's changed. Non-conference, we did what we need to do, maybe even a game better than what we needed to do or we're thinking we were going to do. Mm-hmm. Now go 500 in conference play, which is where we're sitting at right now, 1-1.
Yep. I agree. I am surprised. I thought I was gonna be a lot more disappointed. I expect us to do okay, but you're right. Bryce he took the reins and he looked really freaking good doing it.
This isn't the most talented team in the world, but they've completely bought into how they're going to win games. Like you're just going to have to grit out games on defense. Your offense is not great, but it's at least you have one player that you can rely on most games to carry you through a game when you go through slumps.
Here's the thing on offense. I think we have the pieces still. Now you're right. I don't know.
It looks better.
We have a bunch of talented players, but Connor Season finally is just a knockdown shooter again. Like we're what we were hoping he could be. Shouldn't say again, but he is filling that Casey role where when he's on the court, you have to know where he's at and you have to guard him. That wasn't happening early in the year. We were worried about that. Juwan Gary's done Juwan Gary stuff. Andrew Morgan randomly will just go off for 12 or 14 points in the game. Like a guy like that is a piece that is an element that you have to prepare for. Here's what I hope is that we haven't, not that we've intentionally done it, but shown all of our cards
right
already on offense. And the books out. Because if teams figure out how to guard this certain style and what people can do, then it's scary. So we have to just keep evolving, and hopefully we see some things from different players that we haven't seen yet before. Guys like Raleigh Wooster. Like, I know he's not an offensive threat, but is there a way? Is there a part of the system that he can give us 10 to 12 points a game somehow that we're not expecting? Can Gary have the night that goes off for 25 or 30? Because that's just what Juwan Gary does. We're hoping that he probably can. Is Sam or mainly Sam, because now Goggles isn't playing much anymore. Can Sam come in and have one of his 12-point Sam Hoiberg spurts of defense and hitting 2 open threes, which we really haven't seen yet this year? Like that, we need to hopefully have some cards left that we can still show when we get to Big Ten play. But so far, things are clicking right now, and which is where you want to be at heading into conference play.
Right, yeah, it's been good. The women did just get smoked, but that'll happen too.
Number 1 team in the country.
Yep, that'll happen too.
All right. Well, have a good new year.
One more thing before we leave. Let's
Go.
do this. End of season grade for the Huskers football team.
Gut reaction without any sort of analysis. B.
C-.
I was gonna say C+. About middle of the road, I would say.
I guess we could talk about it when we do our full year end stuff. I'll hang on.
I just want a quick gut reaction in the season right there.
Yep.
Great. That great cliffhanger for next week's episode. Great job.
You just wait.
That's why I came here.
Zach's gonna be like, the reason I gave us a B+ for the end of season grade.
He'll forget what he said.
Hey, I got the Huskers at A-.
Yeah.
All right. Happy New Year, everyone. Go Big Red.
TBR.
Skol. Go Vikings.
And do you want to say anything about the Navy midshipmen?
No.
Okay.
We lost that game for America.